in the life of an individual experience, living, power can be quite a frightening phenomenon. It's partly fearful because you can be abused if somebody has power over you, or completely unable to take a position or a form. And at the same time, it can be very fearful because our own power moving through us, can freak us out as well, because it brings forward those same wounds. Does that make me abusive, inconsiderate, non-caring, arrogant, egocentric? Power as a phenomena can only move as a function of its opposite, which is helplessness, lack of power, powerlessness, which in itself is equally fearful for people, and collectively and in the social field. To be helpless is something which in many contexts is completely forbidden. You have to cling to something and take a position and stand for something, or else there's a kind of obliteration. Helplessness tends to be so forbidden in our psychology that we actually, by blocking the helplessness, cut off our own power source very often. How does that make sense? If we don't allow ourselves to be totally at one with the energy of helplessness, which has an enormous spaciousness about it, then there's no movement of this power possible through us. In the same way, if we don't allow the movement of power through us, or in our universe, we block it, we also block our own helplessness, where there is many, many, many treasures. Unconditional peace, unconditional love, all of that which doesn't need to be helped and never needed to be helped. All of that potential. So this is a kind of struggle which plays out a lot inside our energy systems and between us. Wherever people come together to form a group, this begins to play out. So if we look at the power side, it's kind of nice to inquire in the meditation, first of all, what is this? Where is it? Around us, in us, inside ourselves. And to sample it. Doesn't matter if it's the power inside a block or the power of just being here in the now, the power of being alive. It doesn't matter where we find it, the power of an argument, the power of holding a position, but wherever we find it, to kind of inquire a little bit as to what's going on there. Partly why this is worthwhile is because the moment we complicate power, we identify with it, or we push it, or we repress it, or we try to get it, we tend to come into suffering. We tend to close down. We become less free. At the same time, it's possible, if the power thing is not a good idea, is to go for the energy of helplessness and to really, really, really expand within the energy of helplessness and wait to see what is the effect of really surrendering to helplessness. None of it, not helplessness or power, has anything to do with us. It's something moving in us. It's perceivable, we can see it, we can feel it. But it's not got any consequence to the depth of who we are.
It seems that when you got power over something, in the use of how I know the word power, that there is used a forceful will or a will. And what Georgi is saying is that when we get entangled into power, and maybe also when we get entangled in helplessness, which is the opposite of power, we very easily move into suffering, entanglement, lose our freedom. Also seems that being in power, or using power, is the opposite of freedom. It's different from taking responsibility. Responsibility is leading to freedom. And power seems to be the opposite. I'm not a specialist in power. Partly because in the whole process of inner growth, sometimes there is this kind of reflection of great power, maybe connected with the Kundalini energy moving up, and really the feeling of intense power. But I was never that interested in it and never went that deeply into it. I just kind of noticed it as a byproduct, not something to really get excited about. And in this, power also has a connection with will, free will. But also our free will is quite relative, in my eyes. And incredibly important at the same time, but relative. So when you look to will, power, at a certain moment in the surrender to the light of the universe, there's this gesture of giving up all power, all will, all control, and a surrender in your will be my will. But then what was reflected directly back is my will be your will. So there is one will, there is one power. And I think there is some truth in that. I think in the end there is one power, but we kind of have all a little bit of this power maybe inside us, but we kind of like to lean out, how do you say it, to give power to other people, especially a person who's important and kind of, more power, and power is attached on this person, or some people are stealing power. And power goes together with giving away responsibility or taking more responsibility. And again, there is the entanglement. If we go over the three words, potential, it's So the potential for me is very much with the promise which is in people. And when you generally look at the potential, I think it's very much connected with the mind and the development of the mind. To think freely, to investigate, to be curious, to understand. And maybe understanding gives power, but often when we move more deeply into understanding, we become aware that we don't know shit. Just a tiny little bit. But we all have a potential inside ourselves when we really open up the mind and kind of move into the background of the mind, out of all conflicts in the mind, to an incredible intelligence. Potency, for me, is very much connected with the heart. The depth we are able to connect, to care, to love. Although it's not really our love, loving moving through us and shared in a field in its highest potency. And then when we look to the all-powerful is so much connected for me with unity. It's when we surrender into unity, it's an all-powerful movement in which the individual power is dissolved, and the illusion of power is dissolved, as far as I can see it. Okay, so we start to connect with our ID, and from the ID we move to our hands and bring our consciousness, awareness to our hands. And then I'd like you to kind of look, be aware of your hands, of what they can express, what they have done in this life. And then we move from our hands to our heart. And just stay there for some time. Whatever comes forward, just let it come forward. Then we move from our heart to our feet. And maybe we can contemplate what direction we are taking in life. To look at what we're investing in. Where most of our attention, our energy, our conscious awareness is moving towards. You can just take a day and look in the day and see, if you look to the inner activity, your thoughts, your feelings, what direction are they going? Or not going? Preventing? Then we move from the feet into the ground. We just invite ourselves to kind of sink slowly into the ground, as far as it goes. And then we move through our legs upwards to the pelvic and the coccyx. slowly connect with emptiness or space around and inside the coccyx. Move up to the heart, emptiness or space in and around the heart. Move up to the center of the head, emptiness, space in the center of the head. And then we move slowly up again to the ID. And from the ID, we let ourselves fall down to the hands and to the feet.